everyone, my name is Ryan Smith and I am the Head of Creative Content for CNN International. I've been with CNN for about 14 years and I've worked on a variety of different topics and different subject matters since I've been with the company. Everything from wars to elections to sporting events. But the thing that I have specialized in my career with CNN so far has been around environmental reporting. And today I'm going to give you three tips to create impactful stories about the ocean and share with you some of the thoughts that I have about those tips. So the first tip that I have is if you want to create a piece of content that really engages with the audience, there's two things that you have to do. You have to know your audience and you have to know the platform. Because platforms work in very different ways. So if you're creating a piece of content for social, that's very different to creating a piece of content for television, and that's very different to creating a piece of content on digital platforms. And for me, that's CNN.com. So before I approach a story and before my teams approach their stories, they always think about what's the platform, what are the audience's habits on that platform, and what is the best piece of content to reach them on that platform. And that really varies depending on the user experience of that platform. For example, if you're creating a piece of content on social, you know that social at the moment is really driven by auto start video. So a video automatically starts as you scroll through your feed. So the piece of content that you're trying to create is going to be engaging from the off to try and capture that attention. And then it's going to try and really grab them and engage them in a way that's going to evoke an emotional response, a response that's strong enough for them to share the content. Whereas if you're trying to entice an audience on a digital platform like CNN.com, the entry point to that piece of content 90% of the time is going to be through a headline. So you're thinking about crafting headlines, writing compelling language that describes your story and teases your audience into that story. And that's an art form in itself, because when you've got a story like the environment or the way that climate change interacts with the ocean and the ocean influences climate change and climate change influences the health of the ocean, this is a story that's slowly unfolded over the course of, in terms of climate change, over the course of over 40 years. But in terms of the health of our ocean, much longer than that. So you've got to think about those new headlines, those new ways that you can tease the stories, and those ways that you can capture that attention from your audience. The second tip I have for you is if you're creating content and you're trying to engage with that audience, there has to be an element of connection. It's important to create that connection with your audience because often these issues that we're talking about are vast. The issues are vast, the ocean is vast, the scientific evidence is very complex. So it's important to try and find characters, subjects, and relatable examples that engage with your audience. Now that can be anything from talking about how coral bleaching has an impact on an individual, or how an individual has an impact on what happens, the causes of coral bleaching, or how the choices that you make in your supermarket shopping actually impact the health of the coral reef. Or it could be that you try and find somebody who's a compelling character that can be inspired and relate to your audience. So you're trying to find, I guess the thing that I'm trying to describe is you're trying to find those opportunities that transcend science and scientific reporting and make it more relatable and more human to the individual, to capture their attention and to keep them engaged. Because that's the way humans like to listen to other humans, to be inspired by other humans, and like to think about, for us on any subject matter on CNN, it's always important for us to try and make what we're trying to connect the story that we're telling to the individual who's reading it. So creating a connection for me is that second tip. Tip 3 is, and one thing that's very important when we talk about oceans or we talk about environmental reporting more broadly, is don't undervalue, tip 3 is don't undervalue hope and inspiration. Because often, as I say, these stories take a long time to unfold. It's been a long time in the making, climate change. The damage that we've done to our ocean has been really over the course of over 100 years of not being mindful about how we fish, how we interact, how we mine the ocean for its resources. So what we need to do is, our audience has really become, in some ways, fatigued with all of the negative news around our impact on the world. But if you approach it through those people who are doing incredible things to try and preserve the health of our ocean, the health of the species that live in our ocean, the health of the habitats, what you can do is you can use that as an opportunity to teach people about, this is the person who's doing this to protect the ocean, and this is why they need to do it. So you can use the opportunities to tell stories about that will inspire your audiences as a way to actually get into the reasons that exist and the need for change. So if you've got somebody who's working on and trying to restore coral reefs, for example, or someone who is trying to protect an endangered species, that is an opportunity for you to talk about the reasons, talk about the reason that species is endangered, the reason why that coral reef needs to be protected. So rather than going in and it's a headline about, the diminishing health of coral reefs, you can actually go in with a headline or quite inspiring video footage of somebody who's trying to protect it, someone who's part of the solution. And through that person and through that connection that the audience can have with that person, you can use it as an opportunity to actually talk about the issues that exist within that topic that you're reporting. So those are 3 tips for me that have helped me in my career, helped me as a storyteller, and helped to frame my thinking around environmental reporting that I hope work for you as well. Thank you.